Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's K-E-S-H-W-A-N-I, Keshwani. I have been solving math problems for GMAT out of this book here, the GMAT Review, the official guide. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You should be able to find it at mba.com. The problem that I'm about to solve is the one that you will find on page number 185, problem solving number 242 as a matter of fact, not 41. It should be 242. On page 242 in this book here, the GMAT Review, the 11th edition. If you happen to own the newer edition, the 12th edition, you will find the exact same problem on page number 184. Instead of page 185 is on page 184. Problem solving number 224. Same exact problem in this book, the 12th edition, hence the 12E. GMAT 12E for the 12th edition, then the page number, and then the problem solving number. Let's get going. Enough of the talk. If n is a positive integer, alright, so we know that n is a positive and it's a whole number, that's what integer means. Then the question simply is n times n plus 1 times n plus 2 is, and then they give you choices. So here's my n times n plus 1 times n plus 2. A says even when, not when, but rather only when, even, only when n is even. The best way to take care of this answer-wise is to, they're claiming that this quantity is even, n times n plus 1 times n plus 2 is even only when n is even. So the best way to take care of it is to plug in the odd number for n, odd value for n, and see what happens. So if I plug in 3 times 4 times 5, 3 times 4 times 5, is it even? Well, let's see. 3 times 4 is 12 times 5 is 60. This quantity is even. But n is not even, n is odd. A says this quantity can only be even when n is even. N is not, n is odd here. So A, of course, is nonsense. Let's see what B says. B says even only when n is odd. So I'm going to do the same thing again. This time, since they're claiming that this quantity n times n plus 1 times n plus 2 is is even only when n is odd. So to see if this is nonsense or if this is true, I'm going to plug in n to be even. See what happens. They're asking me that this only when n is odd. I'm going to plug in even number here. Let's see, 4 times 5 times 6. 4 times 5 is, you see, an even number times an odd number will give me an even number. Think of an even number times an odd number will always give you an even number. An even number times an odd number will always give you an even number. So this is even times odd, which is going to give me even, times this even number. Of course it's going to be even. But this answer choice B claims that this quantity can be even only when n is odd. N is not odd, n is 4. I plugged in 4 for n. This is nonsense. Let's look at C. C says odd whenever n is odd. Odd whenever n is odd. This is utter nonsense. This is gobbledygook. For those of you who do not know what gobbledygook is, look it up and learn it. Doesn't hurt. Sometimes some people spell it with the DE, some people spell it with DY. It just means nonsense. something nonsensical. C is gobbledygook because C says this quantity is odd whenever n is odd. Well, n here was even. And we plugged in n to be 4 in this case, and it turns out the quantity was even. This claims this one has to be odd. It doesn't make any sense. Let's look at D. D says divisible by 3 whenever n is odd. Alright, let's look this down. Divisible by 3 whenever, that's the part, whenever n is odd. Because of the use of the word whenever, all I have to do is find one exception and I'm done. Well, there you go, I'm going to do 2. Whenever n is odd, well, whenever n is odd, divisible by 3, whenever n is odd, well, if I find n to be even, if my n is even, for example, if I let's plug in 2 for n, 2 times 3 times 4, this D claims that this quantity is divisible by 3 whenever n is odd. Oh, it doesn't say whenever. You see, I misread it, which is why I was confused. The word whenever is very important that you pay attention to the wording, which is why I was confused here. It does the use of the word whenever was in C. In D it says only when. Big difference, huge difference. Only when n is odd. So to disprove it, I put in 2 for n. I put in even number for n, and we can see that even when n is even, this quantity is divisible by 3. This D says it's divisible by 3 only when n is odd. N doesn't need to be odd, n can be even. N is 2 here, and this quantity 2 times 3 times 4 is still divisible by 3, obviously. Let's look at E. E says it's divisible by 4 whenever n is even. Well, let's see how much time I have first of all. I'm 8 minutes into it. I have to wrap it up. It's divisible by 4 whenever n is even. But let's see what happens when n is even. 2 times 3 times 4, 2 times 3 times 4 right here. Of course, this quantity is going to be divisible by 4 because if n is even, then this quantity is even and that quantity is even. And even times an even number times an even number will always go into 4. This is even, and then n plus 2 is even. If this quantity, let me rewrite here, n times n plus 1 times n plus 2, if this guy is even, then this guy is even, and even number times even number has to go into 4. For example, 2 times 4 goes into 4, 4 times 6 goes into 4, 6 times 8 goes into 4. This is the answer. The quantity will have to go into 4. And of course this would have to be the answer because the only one left. I bloody well hope it's the answer because we've crossed out all the others. I hope you found this helpful. If you wish to get hold of me for personal private tutoring, face-to-face tutoring, or if you wish to buy from me the solution manuals to all the math problems for GMAT, including the data sufficiency questions, in either case, go to my website at www.for4gmat.com and send me an email. Alright? And I hope you found this helpful. Thank you. I forgot my routine here. I'm in Connecticut. I'm located in the state of Connecticut. So it doesn't matter where you are, wherever you are, I'm willing to come to you as long as we can come to an agreement. But I mostly do in Connecticut, and I also go to Manhattan, New York. But anyway, send me an email. We'll talk about your location and we'll agree on some arrangement, and we'll see what we can do. All right? Again, prep4gmat.com. Thank you.